Hi there, my name is Richard with Richard K Photography here in San Diego, California. Today I'm just going to go over a two-camera setup. I get a lot of questions from photographers that are trying to transition into wedding photography, coming from family portraits to landscape or child photography. They're trying to make that transition. So the biggest question to me is, what do they need? What do they require as far as gear? It's probably one of the biggest questions I get. So today we're just going to talk about a two-camera setup. It's really important, whether you're a photographer or looking for a photographer for a wedding, that you ask that question if they do have a second camera to back themselves up. It's really hard to explain halfway through the ceremony if your camera goes out for whatever reason, your camera locks up, or anything like that. You drop your camera. And you don't have a secondary camera to continue your shooting. That's just something that you just can't have happen. So the most important thing when you do a two-camera setup is that each camera complements each other. It's okay to have a full frame and a crop sensor camera, but it's also important to have about the same pixels. So if you're going to run an 18 megapixel or higher, it's a good idea to have that secondary camera that also has 18 pixels or higher. You don't want something that's shooting 18 pixels and your secondary camera shooting at 14 or 12, because you're going to really see that difference in quality. So that's very, very important. I don't actually have my second camera because I'm recording on it, but I would have my second camera on my holster. And again, depending what size the wedding is, the size of the venue, you might want to switch out lenses accordingly. So for me, normally I will have my main camera, which is my 6D full frame, with my 24 to 105. That's what I'll normally shoot on. If I'm shooting distance and I'm actually at a church or at a large venue, I'll actually have my 70 to 200 on this camera. And then my secondary camera, I'll have something probably like either a 50 millimeter or something in the area of like an 18 to 135. So it just kind of varies. Or I'll throw this lens on it. So it really doesn't matter. It's just having that ability that you want to be able to have your first camera, being able to zoom, getting a nice clean shot, and as well as zooming back out without making a lot of movement. You don't want to be a distraction while you're shooting at a wedding. You don't want to be a part of the wedding, as they say. You want to just be able to capture the wedding. So it's important that you have the different lenses to accommodate. I've seen people shoot a wedding with 50 millimeter lenses and 85 millimeter fixed lens, and the movement they have to do in order to get a shot is very distracting because you're on a fixed lens. So by having a focal lens of different depths, that allows you to stay back, midway through an aisle or back in the very back, and still get nice clean shots, zooming in and out without, again, not moving very much. Now if I'm up front and I have a 70 to 200 because I'm trying to capture the couple, and I turn and I want to shoot maybe the first row with the parents and whatnot, that 70 to 200 is going to be too much of a zoom. So that's where my secondary comes in. I can pop that off my holster and shoot that close up and have that lens that's appropriate for that, and then continue back on shooting with my focal lens or whichever lens that's going to be my lead. So that's very important. Other than that, you can have a flash on. I carry a flash. I may not be using it, but it's also always good to have on you and versus in a bag where you have to kind of mess with it, and that's easily transferable. So that's not that big of a deal. You want to really limit the amount of times you have to interchange your lens during a sequence. So if I'm shooting a reception or if I'm shooting a ceremony, I don't want to be there fumbling around with a lens and trying to get another lens on there because it's digging into a bag, or it's trying to interchange and trying to get it to click right and all that kind of stuff. Again, you become a distraction. In between all that time you're doing all that, you're also running into issues such as missing a moment. So it's important that you're set up to shoot, having a second camera is always very, very important. Having a second shooter there is also a good idea, but again, you also want that second shooter to have a second camera. And again, same thing, you want your second shooter to be shooting at the same pixel ratings as you are, or at least, you know, within that area or higher. So hope that helps. That's one of the major questions I get as far as gear. That's my highest recommendation, is having a second camera that will help you and back you up. So if you have any questions, feel free to subscribe. I'll be talking more about weddings as wedding season really starts to roll in here in San Diego. It is year-round here, so it's always nice weather, but August, September is always really big. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me and visit my site. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.